Anything more frustrating than a rainy day when you want to ride your bike? Well, this is a problem which is just as frustrating when you have a brake lever that when you depress it, it doesn't return properly and it sticks like this. Well, this was happening to this Motorbacane C5, about 1982 bike for me. And after changing the cable, checking the housing, replacing the housing, looking at the way I had inserted it in here in case I'd put it in wrong or it was dragging, all of those things I did didn't make any difference. It was still doing this. So in the end my attention turned to the caliper, and it was a cheap older caliper, and because the brake lever wasn't returning, the caliper wasn't returning, but really what was happening was the spring tension on the caliper wasn't strong enough for it to return, causing a problem all the way back here to the brake lever, and this was not springing back. British Summer's Day from the Vela Collective. Hello. Today I'd just like to look at brake lever spring back. When your brake lever doesn't return to its normal position, it's not springing back properly, and when you press it, it sort of limply goes back halfway, or it doesn't return the final centimetre. It's a common problem, I think, and it can be quite frustrating because there are a number of things it can be. So I'd like to start off with number one. Suspect is cable. Over time your cable gets frayed and it loses its efficiency, and a good idea is to take the cable out and to run your finger along it and just to feel if there's any roughness about it or any fraying from the cable wires. And if there isn't, and you feel that there's no kinks in it, well, it may not be your cable then. But it's a good idea to lubricate it. You can get oils from your bike shop, and that can help its movement within the housing. So check your cable, see how old it is, and if it looks good, you go to your number two suspect, which is your housing. Now, this can get kinked and it can build up inside, things inside like dirt and grime from the cable, and this is your number two suspect because, you know, when you press that brake lever, if this cable is not moving completely smoothly inside, it can cause the brake lever not to return back to its right position. So what a good idea to do is if you can take off your housing and then you can put the cable into the housing and feel if there's any kinks inside, there's any resistance there, and in this case there is no resistance, it's smooth. And another thing you can do is put some lubrication in here as well, which will help things. But that's your number two problem generally, is your housing, and to make sure that throughout the bike it's like a smooth flow, there's no strong kinks like that which can cause or help cause friction within it. So that's your number two. Your third problem can be your caliper. Now this is an old CLB caliper. I don't like these very much, and they're very lightweight compared to other like Campagnolo calipers. They feel light and they don't feel particularly good quality, and this one has lost its spring tension. Not to the point where, you know, it's unusable, but certainly it's lost a lot of its tension, and this can be the problem. And you may feel on your lever that's where the problem is, on your lever itself, but actually the problem can start here, where the tension isn't there and it's not springing the lever back all the way back to its position on the handlebars. So compared to this CLB brake, I have this Weinmann 500, which is definitely feels more solid, and the spring on that is much better, and I don't think that would have any problem springing back the brake lever. So check your spring tension on your caliper, and the only way to actually fix that, if you have a problem, is to take the spring off the back, as you can see there, and to pull it together, push it as hard as you can together, put it back on to increase the spring tension. So that's another possibility. And your final possibility is your brake lever itself, where it could be dirty inside. It needs a good clean, and basically it's not functioning smoothly on its return or even on its downward side as well. So clean your brake lever as well. Now the thing is, it could be a combination of all these things. It can be a combination of the brake lever isn't quite clean properly, the caliper tension has decreased over time, and it could be a combination of caliper and brake lever. It could be a combination of housing and cable, or it could be a combination of any of these four problems. So it may not be one thing. You may actually increase the tension of the caliper but still have a problem. So I would recommend that you go through every step of the four problems: cleaning the housing, checking your cable, replacing it if necessary, making your spring tension on your caliper stronger, and also, if necessary, and also anything else you need to do, blah blah blah. So it could be a combination of one, two, or even all things for this problem you have with your brake lever. It could be that your cable needs replacing, but also your housing isn't cleaned, or there's a slight kink in it. Any form of resistance in that housing is going to create a problem. It could be that the tension in your caliper is not quite strong enough, and your brake lever needs cleaning, and that causes it not to go back fully. So I think the best thing to do in this situation is to go through each aspect of what we've spoken about and clean them and make sure that each is working properly, and then you're really getting down to solving your problem, because it really has to be one of those four things which is the issue. And eventually, if it's not one of those things, if it's still not working properly, then you have to look at your brake lever itself and say, is it completely finished? But I would guess that it's one of these four problems.